Hi, welcome to episode 3 of the Healing series. This will be a series of testimonies wherein I will share my personal stories of tribulation and pain and the process of recovery that begins in finding my redemption in Jesus. Before I start with this episode, if you're new to the channel, please do click the subscribe button to get more of these videos in the future, and please do check out my other videos as well. In this episode, I will share my struggles with anxiety and depression while I was in school and how I found healing in Christ. If you're going through the same situation, I hope that this video helps you. Where do I begin? I guess we should start from when I was a kid. When I was a little girl, I was an achiever. I showed intelligence, talents, and skills that not a lot of kids my age had. People would always tell my mom that I had a bright future ahead of me. I showed much promise and potential even as a little kid. Basically, I was a smart girl with a bright future. In elementary school, I was always top of the class. I was always the leader. I was always the one sent to quiz bees and presentations. I was the student council president. I was a valedictorian. I was the only kid who passed the entrance exam for the most sought after high school in the country. All my teachers would say good things about me in parent-teacher conferences, yada yada yada. And this image of being an ideal student was something that I carried all the way to high school. But in high school, I wasn't the only ideal student. In fact, most if not all of my classmates, my schoolmates, were all ideal students. They called us the cream of the cream of the crop, and probably some of you know which school I'm talking about. So in high school, I had actual competition. I had to strive harder because I was surrounded by people who were actually better than me. In high school, I had to push myself to my limits. I always had to prove that I was good enough to fit in. On top of that, I had a scholarship to maintain, and so failing wasn't even an option. I can't even fail my quizzes because it would be mortifying. What would other people think of me? People would think that I'm stupid, and I would never want that. After all, I was a smart girl with a bright future. So I thought like this: if my grades aren't high enough, I'm stupid. If I fail, I'm weak. If I break, I'm pathetic. And if I'm not smart enough, I'm worth nothing. In high school, I started to question my capabilities. I started to believe that I wasn't as smart as I thought. All my life prior to my junior year in high school, I thought that I was excellent enough, but I was starting to believe that I was wrong. It turns out I wasn't that smart, and it shattered my world. Basically, my life seemed like a huge lie. And so high school, I would say, is what gave birth to the deterioration of my mental health. The level of constant pressure and competition and the endless fight to be excellent enough, I think this is what really introduced me to anxiety and depression. High school was when I became friends with anxiety. I would be paralyzed by fear, and this made it difficult for me to push myself to study. I would sometimes skip my classes because I was afraid of feeling stupid. I ended up getting so many distractions just because I wanted to escape from my daily misery. I ended up neglecting not only my academics but also my health. And so I would be failing my quizzes, and that resulted to even greater anxiety, and the excruciating cycle went on and on. High school was where I became friends with depression. In my senior year, I would cry almost every day in my dorm room, silently under my blanket. I would skip classes because the depression really weighed me down. Trigger warning. High school was when I discovered or got introduced to self-harm. I found ways to hurt myself physically, and in retrospect, I think I did that because I needed someone to pay attention to me because I was drowning. I didn't know what to do anymore, and I didn't know how to move forward. After much tribulation and much internal damage done, to be frank, I still managed to finish high school with flying colors, but not without much suffering. But at what cost? Little did I know what was ahead of me was a much darker path, a much bigger threat to my mental health, and this was college. In college, it was way worse. I entered college coming from the best high school in the country, and so Naturally, people had expectations of me. And to make matters worse, I was alone. I was literally the only one from my school who entered this university. Because it wasn't the typical path, it wasn't the first choice. And although I could have taken the first choice that everybody else was taking, I knew that I couldn't be selfish. I knew I had to consider my parents and their ability to support me financially. And so I chose this school that offered me a full scholarship with so many benefits. And this meant that my parents didn't have to spend a single cent on my college education. It wasn't my first choice, but I knew that I had to make a sacrifice. I had to take a different path from the rest. And so in college, I entered alone, like an outcast. And when people would hear which school I came from, there was already a hint of expectation from them. Oh, you came from that school? Oh wow, you must be a genius. You must be stellar. You must be this. You must be that. I did try to live up to those expectations. I did do quite well in my first year in college just because I had a bit of confidence because I did come from that high school and that gave me an advantage. But those highs didn't last very long. In my sophomore year, I already had a failed test. I remember it was so humiliating because I cried in front of the class. I cried in front of my classmates because I failed a test. I imagine people thinking, she failed the test? That girl? That smart girl from that high school? What happened to her? Maybe she's not that smart after all. Overthinking. I felt like a sore loser. And I failed many more tests after that. I had a bunch of low grades. I sucked up several subjects. There were too many lessons that I couldn't understand and too many problems that I couldn't solve. And just like in high school, I felt stuck in a snowball of anxiety. And my bad habits in high school recurred in college, but way worse. What made my prolonged agony worse was the fact that I was taking up a degree that I didn't actually like. I was taking a degree that I later on realized was really not for me. And I disliked it so much that I had to drag myself to school every day. And my scholarship really was the only thing that forced me to go to school and finish it. It was in college when I was first diagnosed with anxiety disorder, which led to prolonged depression. The anxiety that I had in college was the same one I had in high school, and I don't think I was able to recover from that. Meanwhile, my depression lingered from 2017 to 2019, peaking in 2018. I would cry literally every day. I would cut classes to cry in the bathroom. I would skip school to escape. I would skip my meals, and I felt very exhausted every day. I got so weak and my emotions were so fragile. Every day I wanted to escape from my life. I didn't have any motivation to move forward aside from the fears of the practical repercussions if I didn't finish school or if I didn't comply with the terms of my scholarship. But my struggles felt like they would never end. And these struggles weren't all just because of school. They were a persistently overwhelming mix of different issues that I was going through in that particular season of my life. Trigger warning again. To be honest, I would have suicidal thoughts. I felt really stuck in a dark place and I felt hopeless, and I felt that no one understood me, no one shared my pain, because I didn't know anybody who had the same situation as mine. I didn't know anybody who was like me. I felt so alone. And although I did go to therapy a couple of times, I don't think I was able to get the support that I needed, that I wanted. I didn't have that many friends and I didn't want to be a burden to anybody. And honestly, I felt alienated. I felt unwanted and sometimes even hated in school. What's absolutely worse than struggling is struggling on your own and feeling that nobody cares about you. It all got so bad that I almost quit college. I almost quit at the end of my junior year, like totally abandoned school. I didn't care about anything anymore. I was already too desperate. I just wanted my misery to end. I was that desperate already. Thankfully, I managed to convince myself to stay, although I had to allow myself to be okay with putting out the bare minimum and the things that I needed to do. I just needed to survive. I just needed to finish school one day at a time, 1 week at a time. But by the end of college, the damage that has been done to me since high school was something that I don't think I ever fully recovered from. But at least now I can try to process everything. I'm out of that dark place and I'm in recovery. And yet for me to fully heal, I know I have to look back and make peace with my past. I know I have to address the root cause of this problem and fix it, because if I don't fix it now, it might cause more damage in the future seasons of my life. And so if I trace it back from the beginning, I can say that a big portion of my anxiety and depression came from the smart girl with a bright future. The underlying issue with that is the fact that I anchored my identity in being the smart girl with a bright future. I associated myself and my worth in being an achiever, such that if I didn't excel, if I wasn't smart enough, if I wasn't capable enough, if I didn't make it to the top, if I didn't get recognitions, I was worthless. I felt that I didn't have a future outside of being smart. I feel like if I weren't capable enough, the life that I've lived so far is just a big waste, just a huge lie. And I didn't know what to make of that. I didn't know how to accept that. I didn't know what would become of me, and that scared me. When I didn't seem like the smart kid with a bright future who I thought I was for the longest time, it broke me. It left a horrible scar in me, and I haven't fully recovered from this scar. For one, sometimes I can still feel lingering bitterness in my heart that translates to insecurities. Now that I have a job and I'm relatively new to the job, there's still so many times when I feel incapable, when I feel like I'm not good enough for this job, that I don't know how to do this. Sometimes I think, if I wasn't able to achieve my goals before, then I'm not going to achieve my goals now. The scar of this false identity also limited me. It kept me from pursuing the things that I really want. Since I made certain choices in the past, I feel limited to the path that was already laid out for me coming from those choices. Like, since I graduated chemical engineering, I have to take a job that's related to chemical engineering or a technical job. And if I don't, people might say that it would be such a waste of my skills and my degree. But in order to fully heal, I need to stop overthinking. I need to tune out the voices. I need to focus on what's really in my heart and not on what the world is saying or could be saying. In order to fully heal, I need to stop anchoring my identity in something that is breakable, something that falters, something that is subject to the judgment of the world. And in my ongoing journey as a Christian, God gave me the gift of knowing that my identity is anchored in Christ alone. If there was anyone who understood me and shared my pain, and if there was someone who never left, even when I gave up on myself, even when I pushed him away, that person who never left my side was Jesus. And probably now you would understand why I am so vocal about my faith. When I felt so alone and uncared for, Jesus reassured his presence in my life. When I felt that I was carrying all the weight on my own, he would tell me, I'm always with you. And when I allowed myself to be overcome by darkness, he would tell me, I am still with you. When I felt absolutely stuck and didn't know what to do anymore, Jesus told me, there is nothing that I cannot do for you. When I couldn't bear the pain anymore, Jesus would tell me, you can give it all to me. And when I wanted to end my life, Jesus held me close and told me, you are precious to me. You are precious to me. The Lord has been so present in my sufferings. He has my teardrops numbered. Even when I didn't deserve his love, and after so many times I pushed him away when I deliberately sinned against him, he still stayed. My anxiety and depression were no match for God's faithful love. And so now I'm surrendering my identity to Jesus so he can define it. I know Jesus is the only one who can fully heal me from the scars of my past, the scars from this false identity. And I know Jesus is the only one who can make me new and make me whole. So now as I find my identity in Jesus, I'm finding healing from him as well. It's still an ongoing process. It doesn't happen overnight, but I know that I can trust the Lord with his way of healing me and at the same time transforming me to be more like him, to be more like the person that he has designed me to be. In Jesus, I find my true identity. And in Jesus, I find my true worth. And if I doubt that worth, I could just go back to the cross. Because he died for me, I'm worthy of his love. This is my identity in Christ, and this is your identity in Christ too. In Christ, I am a new creation. I am saved, I am forgiven, I am free, I am chosen, I am blessed, I am a child of God, I am loved, and Christ lives in me. So if my story is like your story, or if you can relate to any of the things that I shared, then please remember, don't anchor your identity in something or someone that is breakable, because if they break, you'll break with them. Your true identity is in Christ alone. Don't anchor your identity elsewhere. Your worth is not based on your capabilities, your performance, or your achievements. Your inherent worth is found in what God gave you, in what Jesus did for you. Surrender your anxiety, depression, and other struggles to God. Through Him, healing will begin, and He will give you peace that nothing and no one else in this world can give. Don't dwell on your past. Every day we are given opportunities to change, to be more like Christ, and to seek God's will. Seek God first, know His word, spend time with Him, and follow Him. The identity, the security, the purpose, the peace, the love, everything we need, it's in Him. It's all in God. I hope you will claim your identity in Jesus Christ and find healing through Him. God cares for you deeply, more than you will ever know, and He loves you enough to make you new and make you whole if you let Him. So that is the end of this episode. If you were blessed by this video, please do click the subscribe button so you will get to see the next episodes of the healing series. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and comment down below. I would really appreciate it if you also shared your stories, and turn on the bell notification button so you will get updated whenever I post new content. And that is it for this video. I'll see you in the next. Bye.